Welcome back. Still tuned in to News and Views with myself, Salalo Makwidera. The time is 9:36 Central African time, and we'll now be heading over to Palestine and switching our attention to there. The so-called buffer zone expansion in Gaza by Israeli forces is yet another chapter in this ongoing ethnic cleansing and occupation of Palestine. As the Israeli Security Cabinet votes to escalate its brutal offensive to seize and hold the entire Gaza Strip, the civilian death toll continues to climb, now surpassing more than 52,000 Palestinians, most of them women and children. Gaza is in ruins. Aid is deliberately being blocked, and yet world leaders remain disturbingly silent. And joining us now is Jerusalem-born Palestinian writer and social commentator Jalal Abukhater, who's coming to us live from Jerusalem to unpack the human cost of this war, international complicity, and just to make us understand what, in literal terms, what this Israeli leadership plan to expand and invade, Gaza means, what this vote that we saw in the beginning of this war means. And Jalal is joining us via a virtual platform. Jalal, so much for joining us. Welcome to Salam Media. Really appreciate you giving us your time this morning.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be speaking. Of course, what we're seeing Gaza is something that was, it was written in the clouds, written in the stars since the start of just this genocidal campaign against Gaza. The Israelis never hid their intentions. The leadership was always, us Palestinians, we listen because we know how the Zionist Israelis act and behave, and we know that the days after October 7, there were many statements being made, and some were dismissing them as like, this person is not in charge, this person is not designing the policy of Israel, so there's no way they could just, push on a plan to ethnically cleanse 2 million people through starvation, through indiscriminate bombing, through destroying all semblance of life. But we also saw this coming from a million miles away, because the purpose of what is happening in Gaza, the purpose of the genocidal slaughter, the starvation, is settler criminal expansion. And the expansion is very clear and very obvious. The Israeli settlers, the half of the Israeli society who are pro expanding the settlements, have been advocating and sharing plans and images of where they want to establish Jewish-only settlements, illegal settlements inside the occupied territory of the Gaza Strip. They said that we're going to be permanently occupying this place and we're not going to ever leave. And this is like, they're using the excuse of the revenge against October 7 attack to build more settler colonies, expand. What we have just seen the past 2 days is that all this talk, not only has it been implemented slowly, diligently, and on the ground we can see its effect, it's actually been approved by the Israeli cabinet. The government of Israel has just said, yeah, sure, we want to permanently occupy the Gaza Strip. We want to reset. Perhaps the next logical step is for them to formalize and establish settlements inside the Gaza Strip. And of course, what they are doing now by saying they're conditioning the humanitarian aid and food to a very small space in the south of the Gaza Strip near the Rafah area. This is not a humanitarian zone or a safe zone, as they like to say. It is an extermination zone. It is a plan for in their own words, to thin out the population of Gaza, meaning that more people who are incapable, more people who are starving and being killed indiscriminately and unable to find water. People are dying from all the reasons that you can imagine. Of course, to move 2 million people into a very dense, small concentration camp in the south of Gaza, it's not something that's possible to just do like that. People are starving right now. People need food right now. And this new plan is just literally out in the open, a plan for extermination and ethnic cleansing and settler colonial expansion, which we're seeing unfold before our eyes.
Mm, mm. There's this narrative being pushed that Israel is creating security with these buffer zones. But to many Palestinians, this looks, and I think we can all agree, feels like a permanent annexation. Do you believe this is a land grab disguised as a military operation? And how do you respond to this new escalation, this plan to seize and hold all of Gaza, when, in literal terms, it has always been happening since the first Nakba. There's been a seized and held and oppressed Gaza, and there was no need to, re-mention it by Israel again.
No, no, 100%. As you say, this is something that's been the situation, the case since before. What Israel is doing again is using recent events as pretext for a premeditated plan. The genocide did not just come out of thin air. What preceded the genocide in Gaza is over 20, 30 years of dehumanizing rhetoric, of isolation, of fragmentation, of chipping away at Palestinian occupied territory, of removing all hopes and dreams of sovereignty, even sovereignty for Palestinians in a state on the 1967 borders, which means a state only in the West Bank and Gaza. Even those dreams were being crushed repeatedly and repeatedly by Israel throughout decades before October 7. People were living in a very bad humanitarian condition way before October 7. This does not start on that date, but what we're seeing today is, this is an acceleration of a huge grand plan, and every single red line that anyone has ever set has already been crossed. We keep seeing children, dismembered children, beheaded, decapitated every day because of this indiscriminate bombing. However, we know that all the red lines have been crossed. We just wonder where is the forces who are supposed to stop acts of genocide, to stop this kind of horror, to act against it immediately. We know and appreciate, of course, the role of South Africa in bringing attention of the whole world to the genocidal the intent to genocide by Israeli leaders. South Africa has presented incredible evidence that creates this space, but people choose to ignore this, of course. And we know that the issue is that the world is allowing this to happen. There is impunity. This doesn't start 2 years ago. It started 77 years ago, and it continues. And the people continue to be ethnically cleansed and replaced by settler colonists. And this is the most, violent iteration of it. What we're seeing now is the most violent episode, but it's been ongoing for a long time, and they just want to finish the job, as they say.
Jalal, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Yes, yes. U.S. President Donald Trump is visiting the region soon, and some say this offensive is partly timed to gain strategic leverage before his arrival. How do you interpret the role of the U.S. when it comes to perpetuating this genocide?
Of course, this all wouldn't be possible without the role of the US, without the support of the US. Before the current, President Donald Trump, it was the Biden administration, and the Biden administration have given a green light to Israel to commence the greatest genocide of the 21st century in full view of the world. The US, under Biden, provided diplomatic cover and support and weapons at an unimaginable scale to Israel to support its genocidal campaign in Gaza. Nothing changed with the change of the president in the United States. What Donald Trump is doing is very similar to what Joseph Biden was doing before. It basically is giving Israel a carte blanche to do whatever it wants, to cross all the imaginable red lines, and keep providing it with a constant and steady flow of money and weapons to continue the killing and the genocidal campaign. And if anyone dares to stand up to Israel and protest what it's doing to the Palestinian people, they would feel the wrath of not only Israel but also the United States. The United States provides solid cover. So in the past, we saw how Biden was already initiating attacks and threatening other players in the region, saying, if you do anything against Israel, the United States will show up and destroy you. What Trump is doing now is a continuation of that policy of giving a carte blanche to Israel to do whatever it wants. And whenever anyone threatens Israel, the U.S. would step in to protect Israel. This is like, settler colonial interest, and this is just the way the U.S. deals with its assets in the region. And Israel is, of course, the greatest asset to the United States. It continues to supply it with billions of dollars in aid and weapons to ensure that this settler colonial outpost remains strong. And of course, it's an extension of U.S. empire.
Mm, mm. And just last before I let you go, Jalal, there's a growing fatigue, even among Israeli citizens, with some calling for a ceasefire to secure the release of hostages. But many Palestinians argue that a ceasefire alone is not enough. Ultimately, what would you say justice is supposed to look like for Palestinians at this stage?
Um, the fatigue is dangerous because we are all tired and we feel like we've given so much energy, but we know that situation is much, much, much worse than it was a month ago, 2 months ago, 5 months ago, 1 year ago. This is a situation that requires more action, more involvement, more people speaking up, more people taking to the streets to protest, um, trying to, use up all the means possible to influence policy changes to ensure that governments take action. This is a very critical moment because every day now people are dying from starvation, not mentioning the indiscriminate bombing, but every day now more people are being erased. And the purpose of what's happening now is literally the extermination of the Palestinian people in Gaza. We're talking about more than 2 million people. If people say, how could you let this happen? It's being broadcast on live TV. It's being shown to the whole world how the world supports and allows for this to happen. There is no system that is able to stop Israel. However, it just requires political will, and we know that this is the time to act because this is the most critical, pivotal moment. People are dying every minute, and there's no space for fatigue. Unfortunately, this is one of the most dire situations possible, and that's why people need to be doing the most all they can right now.
No, definitely, Jalal. We're going to leave it here for now. Jazakallah so much for chatting to us and for giving us your time. We'll definitely be chatting in the not so distant future.
Thank you so much.
It was a Palestinian writer and social commentator Jalal Abukhater. And yeah, give us the latest on that front. Gaza is under fire. Israeli leadership has voted on expanding its ground invasion in Gaza. And this is coming amid this human-induced humanitarian crisis. Abdul Razak Ishmailov, we see your comments on Facebook. Thank you so much for engaging with us. And I think we have to chat to you soon. Estonia, very, very interesting how Palestinian solidarity is being treated in that part of the world. I mean, you're saying a photo of you waving the flags of South Africa and Palestine was used as a Hamas, anti-Hamas funded propaganda situation. So yeah, I think interesting. I mean, I think there's so many facets of this genocide is essentially affecting the whole world, and it's always important to keep check of how the different parts of the world are reacting to it. But yeah, I think Jalal, they painting a very, very bleak picture on this vote that we saw recently on that expanded invasion by Israel. And my thinking is, what expanded invasion when it's always been like that. We've always known that Gaza is an open air prison. We've always known that there's an annexation and the pushing back of the indigenous people of Gaza, which is the Palestinians, out of their lands. And well, why mentioning it now? Why talk about it like it's something new, like something that the whole world hasn't seen and hasn't been talking about for so many years? We're going to take a quick break on that very, very disheartening, sad, tiring note, and we'll be with you after this.